friends, what's going on? So in this lesson, I want to talk about 4 tips I recommend keeping in mind when you're going about learning the song Blackbird for the first time. I'm going to talk about these tips. I've been watching a lot of lessons other folks have made, and I'm going to share with you just thoughts, and whether you're learning it from me or anyone else, I think these are some great things to keep in mind to just get you where you want to be with this song. And at the end of this lesson, I'm going to show you a simple way to approach the chords using just 2 fingers. It's sort of a beginner foot in the door of the song. With that said, let's get to these 4 tips. With whatever lesson you want to follow, you'll be on your way. So the first thing I would say is you don't need to feel like you have to learn the entire song. And this might seem obvious, but I'm sharing it because a lot of the lessons you'll find out there, and this is to their credit, they'll teach you the entire song. But if they go into that instruction and they're sort of setting up the structure of the song and making it seem like it's this big monolithic thing you have to tackle as a whole, don't let that stop you if you're just wanting to dip your toe in the water, right? You might not want a full course meal. You might just be happy with an hors d'oeuvre or 2 from the tray. And what I mean by that is you could get by with just learning the very first part, right? Even just learning that is a nice little exercise in itself. Or maybe you just want to learn the verse, right? And it starts with what I just showed you, right? And then this part right here is a nice little challenging part. I'm still not able to play it super fluently yet. And I missed a chord right there. But my point is, the section I just showed you, you could bite that off and say, this is what I'm going to learn with this song. And you could be totally happy with it. It can make you feel good. And you can come to the rest of the song later if you want. I'm just sharing that with you because I don't want the rest of the song and the difference of the first and second verse and how the chorus fits in and all that sort of stuff. I don't want that to stop you from finding some joy with this song. The second thing I would say about Blackbird is don't worry about playing it exactly like Paul plays it, right? And that is, if you just want to have fun with this song, keep in mind that, you can have fun with it not playing it exactly like Paul did. And what I mean by that is there's all these little decisions that teachers are going to have to make when they're teaching this song. Just from having watched a bunch of the lessons, I've noticed folks are teaching you, to do a bit more of a simple version, right? Or you can be a bit more fluttery with your fingers, right? Or you could get a bit more strummy with your fingers. I can't even do that good, but like Justin, for example, Justin Guitar, he's my favorite teacher on YouTube. And to his credit, he does a good job teaching you this style, right? Where he's doing a bit more of a strummy up and down with the index finger. Whereas I think my approach would be to be a bit more simplistic with it and just sort of use the index finger itself to pluck the 3rd string, right? And other folks yet will teach you how to basically play the 3rd string with your thumb, which is a whole different style on its own, right? So these are just a few of the examples of different choices different teachers will make. And some might claim, this is how Paul plays it, or so on and so forth. And, if your goal is to play it like Paul does, that's great. You can go about that, and good luck for sure. However, if you just want to have fun with it, don't be afraid of a version that cuts a bit of corners. Marty's lesson, for example, he simplifies some of the chords, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, which are actually not how Paul plays it, but make it a lot easier to play. So, if your goal is just to have fun with it, don't feel bad, or don't feel, like you're not doing the full justice if you sort of learn a version that's a bit simpler in this way or that way. Okay, and if a lesson is a bit too hard in this way or that, feel free to cut corners yourself or look for a lesson that makes it a bit more simple. So I just want to give you permission to do that, right? So the 3rd tip I would give you when you're learning Blackbird is it's okay when you're learning all the chords to just focus on the bass note and the highest treble note and not worry about that middle note that's sort of, fluttering along. That note can get tricky, especially when you're doing the faster transitions, right? I don't want to bring that in yet. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to give you permission when you're learning this song to take it 2 notes at a time for each chord. And I'm going to include this in the PDF for this lesson. But here's an example of what I mean, right? You could just play the intro like this, right? And play the verse. And bring it back down. It doesn't sound as full, obviously, because I'm not doing the 3rd string. string is tough, especially at this part. I kind of skimped out there. Okay, third string sounds great. It fills it out, right? But when you're learning the song, what I recommend doing is get comfortable with the bass chord shapes that are just using the 5th or 6th string plus the 2nd or 1st string, right? No 3rd string. Memorize the chord shapes. Memorize the chord progressions. Get comfortable doing these hard transitions, right? Because you do that, you memorize the timing, you memorize the chords, that's going to get you a lot of the way there. And once you're fluent in these, you can add the open 3rd string and you'll be in good shape. Okay? So that's the next thing I want to talk, just give you permission to and give you advice on is as you're learning the chords, don't feel like you need to worry about the 3rd string, because I think that's one of the trickiest parts of the song. And then finally, this is an important tip, I think. There are some tough chords in this song. There's 2 in particular, okay? And they happen in the verse, right? So it starts off as Blackbird singing in the dead of night, right? This part coming up right here. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. That part is the hardest part. And then you kind of go down right here, all your life. So that part is tough. And let me tell you why. Is every other chord in the song, you're going to be using your index finger on the 5th or 6th string, okay? And then either your ring or your pinky, based on whatever you're comfortable with, on the 2nd string, okay? So we use that for the G is pretty easy because it's 1 finger, but we use it for the G over B, the A minor 7, the C, right? The G up here, the E minor, the D minor, the E flat, and then so all those chords are using basically this one shape. You're just kind of like shortening the distance, but it's relatively, I don't want to say simple, but it's a relatively predictable movement in all those cases. But these 2 chords, they're trickier because it's all about the transition into them as we go from the C to this C sharp diminished to the D sharp diminished. The tricky part about this is watch my index finger. It's going from 5th string to 1st string and 5th string to 1st string and back to 5th string. Then we go back down and go from 5th string to 1st string to 5th string. So we're having to sort of traverse this way on the guitar, and it's unlike anything else in the song. And here is the great part about this, is there are some sort of cheat chords you can do that make this way easier, and they're going to use chords that you're using elsewhere in the song. And again, this is what Marty Schwartz does in his version. And if you want the easy version of this song, I totally recommend doing this, right? Let me play for you first how Paul does it, then I'll play for you with the easier chords. And I'll explain the difference, but you'll see how much easier it is. So this is the first version, right? Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life, okay? Now if we were to simplify that, we would get this. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. Okay, so what's happening there is instead of going like that, I'm going like this. And instead of going like this, I'm going like this. So it's easier in the sense of these 2 fingers are staying on the strings that they're starting on. So for this in the easy version, my index and my ring are staying on the 5th and 2nd string the whole time. And in the sense, that's easy, even though you do have to memorize the frets you have to go to and all that. But it's easier than the alternative of doing the switch I talked about. Right? Now, let me talk about what you lose when you do this is you lose this bass note that is going up a half step at a time, right? Specifically the bass note and the way Paul plays it goes from C to C sharp to D sharp to E, right? Again, it's a chromatic going up the scale. Now you can hear that here. Listen to the bass note. Right? Then it goes back down. So, bum, 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 bum. Right? Once once you know that's there and you can recognize it with your ear, it sounds cool. It's a nice little chromatic run up and a chromatic run down. You lose that when you do the easier version. The bass note is jumping around a little bit more, but that's okay. Honestly, it's like folks are not gonna catch that unless they're really into the precision of how it's actually played. So don't feel bad about using those easier versions, okay? Because it'll get you there faster. So again, whether you're using my lesson or another one, I wanted to give you these tips, okay? Because I think these will apply to any lesson you're going to follow when it comes to this song, right? Because again, you don't have to learn the full song from beginning to end to have fun with this. This is such a classic song. There's so much that can be pulled away from it. So finally, remember to get that PDF I mentioned. It gives you the chord shapes with just the either 5th or 6th string and either the 2nd or 1st string, right? So no 3rd string yet, right? The 3rd string is going to be open, meaning we're not ever going to push a fret down on it, but we're going to, eventually the goal is to do this. But you can play that without the 3rd string, right? And you can do this. Get that PDF if you want to learn those chords, have at it. And I'm using my thumb and I'm using my middle finger is what I prefer, because I eventually will like to use my index finger on that 3rd string. But again, there's other ways to do it. I'll show you those in my full lesson, but I wanted to just give you this little quick entry into my practice log here as I'm working on this song. I wanted to share these thoughts as they're fresh, because my personal experience as someone who makes lessons for songs like this, I find that when I'm learning songs, it's that fun stage of figuring out, pulling together, putting back up, or pulling apart, putting back together, figuring out a version that works for me. And once I get a bit fluent and I figure out how I want to actually proceed with the song, I kind of lose some of these, I lose the freshness of what it's like to be a student. And I think that it's fun to capture some of these insights as they're happening. So I wanted to share with you. So I hope this is helpful for you. Look out for my full lesson. Hope this is something you can take with you and find value in. So I'll leave you with that. Have a good one, my friends. Bye-bye.